so details.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. And today is part 2 of our Global Application Workshop series. We're really, this one is a little intense because the US does have the most sort of complicated, convoluted application system. But, we've done our best to cover a lot of things, and we will leave enough time for Q&A. So without further ado, this is us. I think by now you guys are all familiar. Please do join our WhatsApp communities to stay up to date with all our events, especially our newsletters and conversations as well. What we're really trying to build is a community where you can learn from each other as well. And so it's not just us posting stuff. Okay, so today's flow, it's all about US universities and applying. So we will go through in quite a bit of detail. I'm sorry. So this is roughly the session flow, and we will, Sapna and I will just alternate the flow of things. So I'll just get us started with components of a holistic review. So the US, as many of you, I think if you're already applying or if you're just joining us from 11th grade, so the US universities follow a holistic evaluation method. What that means is it's not just about meeting a cutoff or getting a certain course, getting a certain grade in some courses, but they look at your courses and grades. And by this, we mean both the rigor of the courses you're taking. Are you pushing yourself, challenging yourself with the most rigorous courses, and also what grades you're getting? And then test scores would be your standardized test scores, SATs, ACTs, while the majority still remain test optional. On the highly selective university side, many of them are mandating tests once again. Then there are the essays, both the main Common App essay as well as supplemental essays, your letters of recommendation, and of course, your activities list. But one thing, sometimes students are unaware of is underlying all this are things that are way beyond your control. So something called institutional priorities. What this means is, let's say a university is starting a brand new program this year, and they obviously want, students who are a good fit for that program because they're trying to fill those seats, right? So some of the stuff we as counselors do become aware of because in the fall, universities do sessions for us, but sometimes, the institutional priorities are really hidden from us as well. It could be that maybe, their chief flautist in their orchestra has graduated last year and they need somebody to fill it. So if you are an exceptional flautist, then great, you have a leg up on the others this year. But those are not things that we come to know every year. And so this is something to keep in mind that, there's a lot beyond your control as well. So after this, I'll hand it over to Sapna, but this is a quick quiz for you guys. Put it in the chat box. We keep hearing about all these like 4%, 3%, 2% selectivity, acceptance rates. Do you know what the average acceptance rate across the 4,000 universities and colleges in the US is? Can you guess? Put it in the chat box and let's see. Don't be, be a sport and don't Google it. Okay, Sangeeta ma'am, 40%. Students, what do you guys think? 50%. Okay. Okay, 35%, 20%. Okay, so the good news is it's actually 68%. And only a tenth of the accredited universities and colleges can be classified as highly selective, which means an acceptance rate, I believe, of 10% or less. So, we all get fixated on this little tiny bit of the pie, but the pie is so much wider than that. Sapna, do you want to?
And the size is just 1/100th of the size, actually. So out of 4,000, just 40 universities. That's a really small number.
Exactly.
It's
Sorry, not even 1/10. It's like 1%. It's
100. Yeah, it's 1%. So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, with that, you want to change the slide?
yeah, I thought I did. Sorry. Is it not showing?
No, it just says don't get fixated on the tiny number of highly selective universities.
Can everybody else see the new slide or no?
No. Just refresh. Sometimes it gets stuck.
Okay, 1 second. Apologies. Let's see.
That's okay.
Did it change?
No, it goes back to don't get fixated on the tiny number of highly selective universities.
Yeah, sorry, that is the slide
Oh,
submitted.
that's a slide. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
The other thing that I think what Ramya alluded to in the thing is that a lot of the times, many things are not in your hands, and a lot of other factors determine the acceptance rate. So your passport is one, your citizenship, and increasingly in the current scenario is becoming more and more relevant. Which passport you have can determine whether you get in or you don't. Then the amount of money you are able to pay. So, I mean, broadly speaking, the more aid you need, the more difficult it is to get acceptances, right? So that's the broad thing. Within that, there are many nuances, which actually this in this session will be a bit difficult to cover everything about financial aid. But we are happy to do another session on that if there's enough enough of an interest in that area. And then of course diversity. So now though. And there is a judgment saying that you cannot use diversity as a factor, but the fact remains that in US universities, diversity has always played an important role. It's also a reason why the US university experience is very different to any other university experience. By diversity, it could be all kinds. It could be the country, it could be the language you speak, it could be socioeconomic diversity, it could be your gender. So there are many kinds of diversities that they're looking at. It could also be diversity in terms of interests, subject area interests, and other interests. So a US university usually is looking to make a more wholesome classroom. And if there are too many of one kind of kids, then of course, if you fall in that group, it's going to be more difficult for you to get in. We can go to the next. And so I think we wanted to really start with the main message in in the beginning is that don't worry too much. Just because those 5 or 6 universities are eluding you does not mean that that this is the end of the road or a US education is not for you. You can there is going to be a place that's perfect for you and where you will do very, very well. So you are a star no matter where you go. I think that's our main message. And we completely at Guiding Teams believe in that there's a perfect place for each one of you. And there is no need to go with the scarcity mindset that if I don't get in here, then I'm finished. That kind of a mindset is just not required. There are plenty of universities with excellent outcomes, and you will find something or the other. Yeah. Ramya?
Yeah. So, sorry, there's a bit of a busy slide, but in terms of strategizing your journey, right, it is there are a few different components to keep in mind, and maybe some of you are already at this point in your journey. So, on the left here is all about the university list, right? So, it is really important because of the vastness of the number of universities in the US, you can't, even if you take the top 50 universities, you cannot apply to 50 universities. Our recommendation is somewhere around 15 these days. That is a manageable amount. Beyond that, every university has a supplement or 2 supplemental essays, and there's money involved because it's anywhere between $70 and $100 to apply. So it starts to get really expensive really fast. And if you're applying for financial aid, please remember they charge you money to send that form asking for financial aid. It's the most ironic thing, but so it gets really expensive. So please make sure you do a lot of times we see kids do this research after they get the offers. They'll get 10 or whatever, 5, 6 offers, and then they're sitting and doing the research that they should have done upfront. So save yourself, the sort of heartache and also the money and
And the time. I think
and the
time.
time. Yeah, really focus, spend some time on this list. And while it merits its own, like, sort of probably mini session, but some of the things, acceptance rates, what we mean is make sure you're not just putting 10 universities on your list that all have under 10% or like really highly selective rate,
Even under
accept.
20% would be highly selective.
Exactly. And by the
Because
way, I mean, I think both of us also, we don't like using the word safety there because some counselors will say, reach target and safety, but please know that there are, especially for kids who are really vying for very, very competitive universities, your safety is actually a very, very, very good option a lot of times. And sometimes, yes, because of the nature of it, you may end up only with offers from these so-called safeties. And once you peg it in your mind that it's a safety, you will be disappointed even if you put in someplace amazing as a safety. Okay, so please don't fall into these little
I
things.
think another way of saying that would be that your safety is actually for many people a dream school already.
Yes, yes.
And just kind of believe in that. So kind of believe in every college that you're applying to, be equally, if possible, equally excited about all of them.
Exactly. And then the academic rigor, and some of these, you get a sense from looking at maybe statistics like GPA and so on, but talk to students. And these days, kids put so much of their college life out there on Insta and on YouTube. So go through some of those, right? Because there are these lovely channels where they interview kids at, like, let's say, Oxford or Harvard, and these kids will tell you outright, we study for 8 hours a day or whatever. And you heard from some of our kids on the panels. Otherwise, a plug, go back and see the recordings on our website, on our YouTube channel. But academic rigor, are you able to handle it? Do you want to handle it? Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. Overall stress levels, this is something that one of Sapna ma'am's, the students had mentioned in the panel, that in some universities, everything is competitive. Even getting into a club is competitive. Like, the overall stress levels are really high. So make sure you talk to kids, make sure, you reach out to alumni in your school or LinkedIn, just cold email these, cold message these kids. They will be, many of them are responsive. And then majors that obviously fit in with your profile. So, just see if we're not saying apply for something, very different, but sometimes kids get fixated on a certain major. But then when they look back at the profile that they've built over the years because of natural interest, the interest points towards maybe something a little different, right? Maybe instead of economics, everything you've done is around a BBA. So then make sure you also rethink, okay, if all my activities that I enjoy are pointing to this major, maybe that's the major I should consider. So just, there is some strategy, but there's also some genuine patterns that will emerge at this point, looking at your profile. This is something to keep in mind. In some universities, especially public universities, you are applying to a major. Doesn't mean you can't change it later, but you will get a choice in your Common App of first choice, second choice, third choice, and so on. Whereas in some other universities, especially privates and a lot of the liberal arts universities, you are applying to the university. So this is something to keep in mind, especially when you apply to a major. Just make sure you're picking the major that you really want to study, because sometimes it can be a little challenging to, oh, I'm sorry. Um, sorry, 1 second. Oh gosh. Sorry. Yeah. Sometimes it can get a little challenging once you're in, if it's a wrong major, right? And then financial fit, when you make your list, please make sure that, and in our WhatsApp group, we will put in a couple of these resources that are really good for figuring out. And Sapna ma'am has a very nice sort of overview
Yeah.
document as well. And if there are parents on this group and you want a session, we can do a financial aid session, soon. Those forms typically open in October, so we have some time for that. And then some factors that kids, especially Indian students, don't necessarily think of, but it is becoming a bit more important, right? So safety, diversity, what are the state laws? Because yes, you may be a very sort of accepting haven inside the campus. But especially for public universities, 75% of your classmates will come from the state and will be reflective of the politics and the biases and the mindsets of that state. And it's important to make sure that you understand the larger political framework of the state as well, right? And that goes for laws as well. There are things
And
around, yeah, there are then things around gun laws and abortion laws and things like that, that, as a young adult, you should be aware of, right? Yeah, and Sapna, do you want to take us through the rest of
yeah,
it?
so the strategy, I'll just go back to one point in the major bit. There are in a lot of universities, especially public universities, but others also, uh, applying to a major, you can change the major, but many times you can't change the school. So if the major is in a particular school, it is possible to change within the school, but it becomes much more difficult if you're changing between schools. And it may be possible to change between schools, but then you lose your credits. They don't exactly transfer. So be very mindful, as Ramya said, about the major that you're applying to. And yeah, with that, to the strategy. The one of the main things you must have heard about US is whether you're applying early applications. So early rounds, which are three kinds. I think Ma'am Ramya mentioned it last time also. There's early decision, which is ED. There's early action, and then there are some variations of early decision. So restrictive early action or restrictive early that kind of rounds, right? All of those are the most restrictive rounds. What we mean by the most restrictive rounds is basically, in most of them, if you get in when you when you apply for this round, you have to sign a contract. Even your parents have to sign the contract. Even your school counselor has to sign the contract. So the contract is signed by three people, and we are bound to follow it. So if you get in, you have to go, except in exceptional circumstances where you're not able to meet the cost of attendance, providing you have declared the cost, that what is your ability to pay when you were making an application. Okay, so if you at the onset when you made an application, you said you can only pay 50 lakhs, you can't pay more than that, and now the colleges come back and told you, and you need to pay say 80 lakhs, then you can make a case for it because you've already let them know that this is what you can pay. But otherwise, this is a rule where you're bound to attend. And the least restrictive on the other end is regular decisions and the early actions. Uh, Early rounds for most colleges start in 1st November, but sometimes as early as 15th October. And then and you get the results by December or January. And then the regular decisions you can apply till the beginning of January. 1st January is traditionally used to be the date. And then you will get to know by March, usually end of March. So that's the round. In the regular decision early action, you're not bound by anything. You can see all your offers and then you can decide. Then the second, so the strategy there is that for most universities, when you apply early decision, for most universities, your chances of getting in may improve a little. It's not, they will not dramatically improve. You still have to meet the criterias. But if you are a good fit student, your chances of getting in will increase in the early decision round, providing your application is strong, not otherwise. So that's the strategy to use. You will get only one early decision, and then some universities offer an early decision too, which you can apply to in January. So you can, if you place it right and you don't get your first ED, you can do a second ED in Jan. So that's the strategy around it. Prioritizing across regions is something we both like to do, which is sometimes you guys are applying to 2 or 3 countries, right? Now, because US is the most uh, let's say cumbersome application, has a lot of aspects to it. Now, supposing you're also applying to Australia and you say that I want to go to the University of Sydney in Australia, right? Or I want to go to say Imperial College in UK. Uh, Many times your counselor can give you a fairly good idea, looking at your 10th and 11th transcripts and your profile by now, whether you are likely to get into these colleges or not. And if you are likely to get in, supposing you say, I want to go to Imperial, and I say, okay, your profile looks like Imperial is likely to give you an offer, then do you still want to apply to US? Which universities do you want to apply to? Because you already have a fallback option here. So by that, in that way, you can kind of decide which colleges, how many colleges, is it even worth making an application to another country? So you can strategize across regions. With standardized tests, there's a lot of strategizing that has to be done. So a lot of universities are test optional. Some universities are test blind. So those definitely will not look at standardized tests. Then there are many which are test optional. But again, your counselor should be able to give you an idea about whether it is worth your time to take the test, to take the standardized test. What kind of a score should you be getting? When should you be taking the standardized test? Should it start in 11th? Should you take your first test in 11th? So all of that stuff needs to be timed and strategized. And same goes for English proficiency test. Not too much strategy, you will need it, but then at what time do you want to take it? You need to kind of plan that in advance. Interviews. So interviews, some universities will offer it. Whether you need to take it, whether you should take it or you don't need to take it, you need to decide that. The alumni interviews, sometimes they're also admission officer interviews. These interviews often need to be scheduled beforehand. So the scheduling starts somewhere in October, November. You can go to the website and you can schedule your interview even before you. It's not like you have to make an application and then you schedule the interview. So sometimes they are very limited, the interview slots, and you have to kind of book them in advance. Demonstrated interest. Most US universities will mention whether they track demonstrated interest or not. What demonstrated interest means is whether you have been showing any interest in the university over the last couple of months, years, whatever. The reason a university is tracking this is so basically in the US, how it happens is if they send out 100 admits and 50 kids decide not to accept the admit, it lowers the yield rate. So the yield rate becomes 50%, right? They want to protect the yield rate. So they want a situation, the best scenario is that they send out 100 and all 100 students accept and come to them. That's the best way of protecting your yield. So because of that, what they're trying to track is whether you are genuinely interested in them. So, are you subscribing to the emails? Have you met the admission officers if they came to your school? All of that kind of stuff. When they set out faculty sessions, other things, do you attend? Have you written any mails with any interesting questions to them? So that kind of stuff. And certain universities track them, certain universities do not track them. It's good to know. So once you figure out which universities you're interested in, whichever are tracking demonstrated interest, it's good to go on their, get into the mailing lists, attend their sessions, ask some questions, only ask relevant questions. Don't ask questions just for the sake of asking questions. But yes, that kind of stuff. Additional materials. So whether you need to submit a portfolio, some programs it's very clear. But in US universities, you can submit portfolios even when you're not applying to a design school or other things. So if you're good at an art or you're good at a sport or you're good at music, performance, any of that stuff, do you want to make a portfolio? Will that college accept it? So, and all this information will be available to you online. Do you need to take a video interview? Nowadays, many universities have introduced a video interview. Some of them have kept them optional. Usually, what will happen is they will ask you questions. The question will come up on the screen, and then you have to answer it. And then that gets recorded and it gets sent to the university. And sometimes you'll be asked for a graded essay. This is especially true in the more competitive universities. And graded essays, kids who are in IB are likely to have them already. So one of your essays that that your faculty has already checked and given you some reviews on, some feedback on, that will serve. And for other students, Ramya, does Cambridge also have a graded essay? Do Cambridge kids have graded essays?
Yeah, I think so. Princeton, I know, asks for one. So students usually give something from humanities. So those kids who take econ find that it's easiest. Global perspectives, those of you who are taking global perspectives, it's a great one. Otherwise, English, because sometimes kids will take math, physics, chemistry, and they're left with no, like, other than English, there's no, option. So
Right. So, so you can submit that kind of an essay. We can go to the next
yeah.
slide.
Okay, so now we have something exciting planned for you guys. For those of you who don't know, that is Tina Fey. It's a blurred picture. Children, I mean, she's my generation, so you may not know, but this is really funny movie called Admission, where she plays a Princeton admissions officer. But anyway, are you ready to do a little case study? I hope you are. Okay. Okay, so this was a case study that done for us counselors by by the University of Chicago. So what we have here, we're going to take you through. We're going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes probably on this, right? But it will give you a sense of how university officers look at the whole, what it looks like on their side, and really how, you'll get a sense of it. I won't give away too much. Okay. So we're going to have this pretend college, Cascadia College. I'm going to give you a quick brief of, so you are going to act as admissions officers. So for the next 10 minutes, I need your full attention. Okay. So no triple tasking with any other windows. So eyes over here. Okay. So let's say Cascadia College, is a small college in the west coast of the US. And it is it's a liberal arts and sciences college, and so that means academic rigor, but also a very the liberal education philosophy of flexibility and multidisciplinarity and all that stuff, right? The academic program, students spend about 1/3 of their time in the core curriculum, and that gives exposure to a lot of different subjects. And actually, many US universities will have some sort of a core curriculum. And then students will select the major, and then 1/3 of the students' time can be devoted to elective coursework. Okay. Now, some brief statistics. It has a 20% acceptance rate. Almost all the kids, so 90% of the kids fall in the top 10%, because remember, academically rigorous. Okay. This is a top university, so-called top university. And then they are test optional, but the mid 50% range is, reasonably high, not crazy, 50 plus, but pretty strong. And then the most popular majors tend to be in humanities, social sciences, but also some sciences like math and so on that's mentioned here. Now, here's where, remember, institutional priorities. You as an admissions officer now do have insight into the institutional priorities. Cascadia has recently established a program for interdisciplinary sciences. And students can engage in research that span both science and social sciences. And it's a wide range, they're looking at a very balanced class in terms of gender, in terms of students of color, in terms of students from within the US, though the majority, if you see, do come from the West Coast, and then international students. Now, this case study, because we didn't have the time or patience to manufacture an Indian case study, even though we could have. But so this is going to be a US application. So read it, right? We'll get to that. I'll show you the QR code and I'll put the thing in the box. But as you read it, if you don't understand certain things about the GPA and all, you just ignore it, just focus on the big picture, okay? Okay, so now what does the school value? How do you know someone's a good match? Because remember, US university is all about the fit, right? So this is a liberal arts program, which means, they value interdisciplinary learning, students who are showing that intellectual curiosity and engagement. And then, like we said, because they have this new program, oh, sorry, Yug, Yug, I think when you do these, thank you, it shows up for everybody. So they have this new course, so obviously they are looking to get people into the interdisciplinary program. And then, because they have students already, a majority from the West Coast, that's something to keep in mind. Given Cascadia's college level of selectivity, okay, you can ignore that because we're only going to show you one application in the interest of time, right? Though it would have been fun to do all four. Okay. Now, these institutional priorities for outsiders, as we mentioned, is a black box, but you do know that, they are looking to fill that program, right? Okay. So overall, when you're reading this application, ask yourself these three questions, right? Does the student seem prepared for success at this college? Which means, are they meeting the academic, will they be able to withstand the academic rigor of the course of the college? Impact. So is the student somebody who's involved in their community, and what kind of contributions are they likely to make to this university? And also, because this university does ask a supplemental question, the why us question, which is basically talking about fit. So does the student seem enthusiastic and excited about Cascadia? Are they a good fit in terms of qualities, characters, and so on? Okay. So are we ready? Okay, so please scan the QR code. Otherwise, I am going to put in this. Sorry, I just realized I didn't. Okay. Okay. Just see if that works. Sapna, can you check if
Yeah, the
that
link is here. Let me just check.
yeah.
That works.
It works.
Okay.
Okay.
So, okay. So again, don't worry if you don't understand all the components. Now, the PDF that we have given you, that's exactly how it looks to an admissions officer. I have had the opportunity to be a seasonal reader for a couple of these universities, and literally, this is how it looks. Okay. So, um, remember those three things: academic preparation, impact and contribution to community, and fit with college. These are the three things you're looking for. Okay. I'm going to set the timer. You have 6 minutes to read the application. So, starting now. Hope everybody can open it and go through it.
Ruchika, what are you not able to click the link or the QR
Yeah,
code?
the link.
Okay. Can you just
You have to
point your
copy
phone
paste
towards
it.
the QR code? That's also working.
I'm on the phone only.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. You know what? We will also pull it up here and we will share it
Yeah.
because let's do that.
The link will have to be copied and pasted on a new window. That's how it'll work.
Let me see if I can paste this as a link.
If you copy the link, paste it on a new window, it's working.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I cannot somehow get it to like paste as a
Okay.
link.
Ruchika, have you been able to open it?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Veena. I think she is downloaded and
That's sweet.
yes.
How much time do we have left?
We have 2 minutes left. And I think I'm being generous, maybe just 1.5, possibly. Okay, just about 10 seconds more. Okay, and time's up. So I'm going to ask you guys now. We'll put this back in. Are you able to see the slideshow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so kids, this is where students, I need your active engagement, please. We need your active engagement. This won't work otherwise, right? What did you take away from, well, what did you take away from the process of reading the application first? You can unmute. There are, just a nice number of us, so you should feel free to unmute. And this is a safe space. It's, and we can edit out this part of it when we put it up. So there's no need to, feel like you're putting something out there that's wrong or anything. This is new for, when we did it, it was new for us as well.
Yeah.
Who's
Any
going to be the
thoughts?
brave one? Come on, you're applying to US universities.
Let's ask simpler questions. Were all of you able to read the whole application? How many of you were not able to completely read the application? Anyone just put up your hands?
Me.
I was reading the announcement. Anybody wants to just put up your hands? Were you able to read the whole application? Hands up. Show of hands. What? So Anna was able to read the application. Okay. But the others, okay. Himmat Veer, yes. Arshan, Dhriti, you read the entire application. Swagat, okay.
Hey, that's
Were
not
there-
me. That's not me. That's one of the
Yeah,
other.
many kids have joined with
Yeah.
Swagat's.
Yeah. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
No, thank
So,
you.
so
It's fine.
most of you were able to read the applications, was it? What was your main takeaways from the application? What did you learn about the applicant? Anybody wants to say anything? Academically, what did you learn about the applicant?
Kids, you can just unmute and speak up, right?
Yeah, you really can. I think I mean, you should be able to. Should I
Do
ask to unmute?
Yes, Arnav, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the applicant did take some academically rigorous courses. I mean, he did took like a course of multivariable calculus and did manage his extracurriculars along with it. So yeah, that does show academic rigor because that's a course that even some college graduates are not able to strive well in. So
Great. So that's a great observation. What was the GPA? Anybody
uh,
got that?
91.6 if I'm not wrong.
Great, great, Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Himmat, you want to add something? What did you get away from the application when you read
The
it?
The applicant score were constantly increasing with each passing
So
academic
you,
year.
you noticed that as an admission officer. Great. Anything else anybody noticed about the applicant?
She had done some community service, so it shows that she has been, very careful towards people who are in need and has
Right.
been providing them with help. So that's a really good.
Great. Did you get a feeling about how intensively involved she was? Did that come through in the application anywhere?
And I think she did 15 hours of community service, so I think that's
Okay.
quite pretty decent, and that's good because many people require it for for some handicapped people, they don't get enough service. So I think it's quite good that she provided themselves some help from her side.
Right. Anybody else got anything out of the application? Anything that stood out to you guys?
While their school offered, I think, 10 AP courses, she only took 3.
Okay. So now you're comparing what the school is offering to what the child has taken.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yes. What does that make you think?
Maybe this person didn't completely use the academic
Opportunity.
opportunities they had in the school. Maybe not in other subjects. In math, they did, because I think in one of their letter of recommendations, I think they kind of maxed out their math courses, but maybe not in other subjects.
Okay. All right. That's a strong observation. Anybody else?
Ma'am, we can see that she did try to explore different domains in her application. I mean, she went from mathematics to policy making. I mean, that's something that comes from genuine interest and after exploring different domains and fields. So that's something that personally stood out for me.
What made you think that she's looking at political science? Like,
No,
where all did you find
yeah,
that?
did mention in her essay, and then she in her activity section as well. She did mention that in grade 11th and 12th, she did something in political sciences.
Okay.
Yeah, so she did demonstrate her interest, which was like coherent with her activities as well. So that's something that personally stood out for me.
Great. Uh, Anybody else? Anybody saw any lacunas in the application? Any red flags that you saw? And I don't know,
Yes.
I was not able to read the whole application, so I'm
Her
not.
SAT score was quite pretty decent. I think it was between 1400 to 1300. So I think the other students would have outperformed her. So yeah, that was a bit decent, not too bad, but not too good either.
Okay, okay. All right.
Uh,
The SAT score
the
was not very good. Okay.
Common App gives you, I believe, 10 spots to put in activities, and she only
Yes.
put 5.
Okay. Okay. Which shows what? Why, what is the red flag there?
Maybe she didn't, I don't know, do enough,
Yeah, maybe
or
she's
like
not as involved or as much
as involved as
challenging.
another equally academically strong candidate might be.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else has any thoughts? And what's the other question that we had, Ramya ma'am?
Would you, okay, yes, no, so accept, reject, waitlist, given now that you know what you're looking for, right? So remember, so let's go through question by question. So I think, is this person, okay, by the way, I don't know, maybe, am I reading the wrong application? Because it's Alan Landon and it's a he. And
No,
all
no, it's
the,
correct. It's correct. It's correct.
and
Yeah.
all the letters of recommendation say he, Mr. Landon.
I
So
didn't even go to the letters, but somebody
yeah.
said she, so I just
So
took on
no,
that.
so it is a, and I don't know
Simple.
where the SAT somebody said, because this person has only submitted ACT
ACT.
test. Yeah.
The
So
31.
unless
And
I
the ACT
accidentally
score is
put up a
actually
wrong
good.
one.
The ACT
Um,
composite is 31.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Can we go back to the questions what you'd asked, Ramya?
yeah.
The beginning,
And
yeah.
also, sorry, somebody, whoever, I don't know how to remove these
You
tick
can
marks.
disable, I think it's a whiteboard mark. Well, let me see.
Yes. So
The host should be able to raise it, I think.
okay, so remember these three questions. So let's ask them one by one, right? Does the student seem prepared for success in their intended area of study? So I think most of you felt, are they, okay, so is Alan Landon academically prepared for this university? Remember
Yes.
their stats are, their middle 50% is 30 to 33 ACT, and 90% fall in the top 10% of their class. And if you got around to reading the whole application, you know that the student is they are a scholarship holder. They're a Batten Scholar, which is given to the top 3% of students. So they are definitely, what do we think? Are they academically prepared? You can put it in the chat box. Yes,
Maybe we
no.
can have a show of hands, everybody who thinks yes, academically prepared. Okay, we have one person with their hands up.
What is the question?
Do you think Alan Landon is academically prepared for this college? Okay, another yes. Anybody else? We've got 2 chats also. Yeah, so the school said that they don't give ranks, right? It was 0 on
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
But
when you read the
because,
LOR, as Ramya mentioned,
yeah.
the
And
LOR
also he is a
mentioned
Batten Scholar, which they
is
basically
3%, top
Mhm.
3% of the class.
Correct. Okay, so academically prepared, we're going to say yes. What about contribution to the community? So the second thing we were reading for is this student going to actively engage with the community?
Okay, so Raghavi thinks yes. Anybody else who is voting in favor of Alan?
You may have to go back and check to see what the LORs talk about. So they do say engagement outside the classroom is strong, personal qualities, deeply engaged in intellectual life of school. So for this, you would look at a combination of the activities list and the LOR. What do we think? Hands up if you think they're going to contribute successfully to the school, to the college environment, community.
Okay,
Yes.
Rachel says yes. Yash says yes. Okay, so quite a few yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think my
So
controls.
Arnav says that they didn't mention their rank, so that might pose to be a red flag. Ramya, want to answer that?
No, so usually, like many schools don't give rankings, Arnav, especially like most Indian schools, especially the like sort of progressive Indian schools have all done away with rankings. So usually they don't, give the rank. But
It
what
won't be held against the child, yeah.
Yeah, but what readers and admissions officers also look for is, I mean, they do want to check to see what your relative standing is. So many schools give, sort of, they will give like I know Sapna, your school has like the blue tie, red tie, like you get distinctions, right? It doesn't mean that
Scholars,
only
the
one person
colors
will
and all
get
of
it.
that, yeah.
Yeah, like our schools used to do like honor roll or like a principal's award, and there was no limit on how many students could get it. You just had to cross a certain threshold. And all of those tell a university your relative standing in that.
And in this particular case, as Ramya had pointed out, the LOR which said that he's a Batten scholar and 3% of the kids get it, topmost kids. That is a very clear indication of where the child stands in the class. So the
Yeah.
relative position can be taken from there.
Yeah. And then the third one was fit for Cascadia. What did we think of the fit for the university? This was the supplemental essay. And by the way, if you didn't get around to reading it, I mean, now that you're making the decision, right? Did you have to, okay, let me ask you, did you have to go back and reread parts of the application to sort of figure out if the student is a good fit and things like that? Guys, we need a little bit more engagement. This otherwise doesn't work because Sapna and I
Aditya
already
says
know
yes.
this stuff. So
Aditya and Arnav say yes. Okay, so yeah, they didn't need to go back and read parts of the application.
okay. Right, and it's tough, right? Now remember, US university officers, and this is really like one of the takeaways of this exercise is university admissions officers and readers spend all of 6 to 7 minutes on each application. Not even kidding. Been there, and it's really horrible because you feel like you can just about skim through all of it. Now it seems very unfair because you have spent tens of hours perfecting that last line of your essay
Hours more
and your activities list and whatnot, right? Like possibly even hundreds of hours, I don't know. But they spend 6 to 8 minutes. So it's a sobering thought, right? Now, why do I bring this up? It means that in that short amount of time, everything that you want to tell about who you are, what your motivations are, what your passion is, what you want to study, how great you are, everything, all of that has to come through in those 6 minutes, right? In the 6 minute, the admissions officer, let's go through this just one more time. So they're reading all of the Common App, right? This is all the stuff you guys are familiar with if you're in 12th grade and you've created your Common App account. They're reading your personal essay. Then this is something called a school context, which is basically a school profile, sorry, which gives the context of your school. So, you know, what your school typically offers, you know, what kind of like parent body it has, what kind of graduation requirements, what kind of distribution of grades and things like that. So they do have to read that to get a sense of the context of the school. And then your transcripts, which your counselors or your vice principal or your teacher, whoever uploads, they go through that. So they, in this, they're looking for a couple of things. One is, like someone very rightly said, you know, what is the progression, right, across the years? Is it improving? The second is what particular are you taking the courses that, so if you say you want to do a major in engineering, are you taking higher level math courses, right? Do you have those certain prerequisites? In general, you know, are you taking rigorous courses or are you taking the bare minimum, right? There are always easy courses, hard courses. And please, you know, regardless of how holistic this all may be, I will tell you this, that US universities still value STEM courses as very rigorous courses. So there is a hierarchy, much like the Indian system, that they also tend to look at. So, you know, most of the time, whatever it is that you may be applying for, at least till 10th grade, they do expect you to have taken science and math courses, and preferably in 11th and 12th also.
Yeah, but that with a caveat, and also at least some social science. You
Yes, sorry,
have
yeah. So,
only science, but
exactly,
yeah.
yeah. And it depends on the university again, but
Yeah.
and then this was all the LORs. Remember, many of them ask for one counselor LOR, two teacher LORs, maybe an optional LOR. So that could be anywhere between 1 to like 4 or 5 LORs that they're reading, still in that span of 6 to 7 minutes. And then supplemental essays. This university only has one. Often there are 2 or sometimes even 3 or more,
So
right?
how many of you think this child is not really committed to Cascadia? Because I get that feeling. Look at the supplementary essay, it's really weak. I mean, I think there's not enough research done there. It's
Yeah.
it's very generic. Or maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, Ramya,
So,
whether you did the
Sapna
same.
ma'am, I think let's just dwell a little bit on the activities list, right? So kids, what do you think could be better in this activities list? Does it give a full sense of what the student has done?
I think it's a bit over the place, and also the descriptions are really, really vague, like really
Exactly.
generic.
Okay. So let's take one example. Let's take the very first one. It's mathletics, right? He says, Marylebone's competitive math team, we practiced for about 2 hours a day after school, learning new matrix and tutoring for lower school. I would like you guys to take a crack at how you would improve this. Just this one activity. Let's do it as a test, right? You still have only 150 characters. It's not a whole lot, but you also have 50 characters in the title. So let's take it one by one. What else could we put in the title that would make it? Let's start with the description actually. What else could we put in here that would make it more compelling?
I think if she had participated for an Olympiad, that would have made it way better than this.
Okay, so could have said, okay, you know, participated in X number of tournaments, right? Some specifics about maybe participated in 3 tournaments during 11th and 12th grade.
Yeah,
What
and if she was really into it, she would have won a medal or 2 if she had participated like in 10 to 9 tournaments. It's possible, but participating is also quite good.
Yeah, let's assume there were no medals. Because sometimes, you know, kids, it not everybody can win at these things, right?
Yeah,
But even if you have just participated, there is a nicer, better, more impactful. Remember, impact was that second thing that we were looking at, right?
They could have mentioned that how learning new math trick helped them to bring about a change aligning with college values.
Okay. Yeah, but that may be difficult in 150 characters. But say when they mention, what about the numbers? So how many people are in on this team, and from how many were they selected? So
Yes.
because it says competitive math team, but what does that really mean? Is it like, are there only 5 people in the entire school who are part of this team? Because that makes it highly selective. Or is it like 100 people? Right? So we'd
Yeah.
like to know that. They've mentioned how many hours a day they do after school. They could have mentioned a couple of when they say math tricks, are they doing, I don't know, I don't understand math too much, so Ramya will have to help me. But are they doing like linear equations? Are they doing variables? Like what are they? So like maybe a little bit, maybe calculus or something, we could mention that. When they say lower school tutoring, how many kids did they impact? Did they teach like 10 kids? Did they teach 40 kids? Was there any kind of, is there any kind of result that was seen? So was there like, these 50 kids whose average score was 30 on 50 became 40 on 50 or something like that. So may not always be available, but basically as much of numbers and something that can help us give a sense of where this is. That would be great. Ramya, what would you want to add to it?
Absolutely. So an exercise, if you don't want to do it now, and you can do it later, but think of, just write it out, right? Like take a minute and see if you want to write a better version of this for this person. Assume no medals and all, but these 3-4 points that Sapna ma'am mentioned, how would you write it, right?
And you could take, so what I would do probably would be, it's Mathletics is the name of the team, obviously, and then we could put Marylebone's competitive math team in the title if it would fit, so that we would have more space in the 150 characters to put in the other information that we want to put in.
Exactly.
So something like that would work,
Yeah.
right? Hmm.
So the trick as you write your activities list is start with as much as you want to write. And then also don't use full sentences. That doesn't work at
Yeah,
all.
the grammar is not so
Semicolons,
important.
yeah, semicolons are your best friend, especially if you have done an activity for 5-6 years, and you want to bring all that in. One is you can consider splitting it up so that maybe, let's say debate. We see this a lot with debate kids. Maybe you were running the debate team in school, but also participate in a lot of international competitions. Split it as 2 activities. So debate team member or debate team head would be one, and then participation in international tournaments the other. It's important, very important, like Sapna ma'am said, it's all about the specifics, right? Competitive math team, what was the kind of, you went through 4 rounds of selection to get to the math, to make it to the team. That is important because it shows that you have that resilience, you have that passion for it. How many hours, what if it's an impactful activity like, like here, for example, the LGBTQ club. It just says advocated. Okay, what did you do to advocate? Made posters, canvassed people, wrote articles, you know, f- wrote X number of articles and include specifics, right? Volunteered 70 hours doing this per week. I mean, some of that is there in the week, but basically, went house to house and talked to 200 people. These are all specifics that really make all of this come alive. Okay.
Yeah.
We will not go through too much of the essay, but the point of this was just to say, you do really, and I'll go back to the slideshow. It's still visible, yeah?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, Sangeeta ma'am, thank you. Yes, also skill sets gained, right? So some activities, you may not have accomplished anything or any impact. Like, for example, if you took a MOOC course or you took a bunch of like courses, there, what is the learning, right? And how did you maybe apply that learning? But even if there's no application of that learning, you spent that time learning that thing. So, right? Sapna, do you wanna?
Yeah, so the other thing that Ramya has worked very, what she's going to show in the next few slides is basically that it's not that every university is the same. Every university has a distinct personality, a distinct atmosphere, and they're looking for distinct kind of students. And if you look on the website, you will find this. So this is from the Harvard website, and especially look at the red box that we've marked there. It says, well, the heart of the matter will always lie in academic promise. So academics most important. We prize candidates with special talents and with outstanding personal qualities. We're interested in students who excel in one or more extracurricular activities. So they're very clear. They want kids with very high interest or achievement in one or two areas. And we seek distinctive and diverse national and international student body. So they're looking at kids who peaking in one or two activities. They're not really looking for generalists, right? That's a very clear thing that Harvard has laid out on their website. If you go to another one,
Sorry. Yeah.
that's okay. You want to do the Yale?
Yeah, sure. So Yale, again, very similar, right? They say, person who gives every ounce to do something superbly has an advantage over those whose capacities may be great. But so this is more about, have you stretched yourself to the limit, right? And that usually is correlated with achievement, really. So see, the desire and ability to stretch one's limits. So if you're the kind of student, yes, who has done a lot within your school, but maybe not like, you've really not pushed yourself beyond the boundaries of your school, Yale is not going to be that right fit for you, right?
But still, between Howard and Yale, you're getting a sense that Yale is valuing effort and stretching your abilities more than they're asking for achievements.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean,
Yeah,
both
there
of
are
these need
nuances.
achievements. We have no two ways about that. Yeah, so Carnegie Mellon says your non-academic interests, including extracurricular accomplishments, part-time jobs, hobbies, and community service also play a very important role in the admission process. We also consider leadership, motivation, passion, and perseverance, concern and advocacy for others, and other experiences in making admission decisions. By looking at this non-academic information, we develop a sense of your personality, motivation, and social responsibility. So these are the factors that they're looking for. These are the core competencies and values that they're looking for,
Mm.
right?
The reason we're showing you this is, as you build your list as well, right? This is something to look at when you build your list, but also then this is something to keep in mind when you are writing your activities list, when you are writing those essays, right? Are these things coming across? And I think the next two are basically, we're just going down the selectivity a little bit. And also there is nuance to every university, right? So if you look at University of Illinois, so UIUC might be on many of your lists, or UIC. And here they look also for, and this, remember we talked about applying to a major versus applying to the university. So at Illinois, a public institution, you are applying to a major usually. And so they are very specifically, their supplemental essay asks why this major, right? And so they are looking for activities related to that in your activities list. And also here, see, this is no longer now that we need this exceptional achievement. Now they're like, okay, demonstrate some impact, level of accomplishment. So they're clearly signaling a different kind of fit. They're saying, look, we need you to really be passionate about the major. And yeah, it's kind of nice if you've done other things and served your community and you indicate all these other skills, but not necessarily looking at that whole spike thing necessarily, right? And then you go down to Penn State, which is a lot more, lower down the list in terms of selectivity. Doesn't mean quality, just selectivity. But they are very much more like, I like to say warm and fuzzy, because it's like, okay, who are you beyond your application as a student, as a sibling, as an athlete, son, daughter? Look at these terms they're using, right? It's no longer so extremely achievement focused. It's truly more genuinely, who are you as a person?
Right.
And I think, by the way, this goes to speak about fit, right, Sapna? Like, I think
Yeah.
you.
And also, I think sometimes some of us never realize that the things that we do as children in the house or as elder sub-siblings and stuff, that can go in the activity list. And very often that can go, like I had a child who'd been looking after her grandmother, while she was unwell. And I think that totally went on the activity list, right? So that kind of stuff is important to universities, and it's worth telling that too. And of course, it goes to talk about the fit also.
Yeah. As you're looking at your activities, especially think beyond the formal activities, think beyond, take a look at everything you do in an average week that you spend your time on. And yes, sure, by the way, don't discount things like if you're going down a lot of rabbit holes, right? Yeah. If you're going down a lot of rabbit holes on YouTube or Insta, but valuable stuff, right? Like if you spend hours watching videos on math, write that as an activity because it
Exactly.
shows.
And if you can say which kind of people are you reading, which influencers, which authors, if you found some really interesting concept in one of the YouTube videos, I mean, you can because you're learning things from those videos, right? And it's just because it's a video content or it's Instagram doesn't mean it doesn't count. It's learning. So yeah.
And yeah, and like Sapna said, also domestic duties, right? Some of you, not all, but some of you do have that when you're taking
Yeah.
care of a younger sibling, when your parents are at work
Even
and things
pet
like that.
sitting, I mean, if it's done seriously, if it's an important thing, it's an important part of your life, you can put it in if you have the space. Many times, actually, we suffer from too much activities, not enough space to put it in.
Yeah.
So you're talking about putting one activity in two, I actually have to end up putting three activities in one. And
Yeah.
that's a character game. That's
And by the way, a little note on that, some kids do use the additional information section for
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are rules around how to use it, which you need
Yeah.
to kind of, yeah, work on. Okay. Yeah, we should
Okay.
go on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you kind of read this application, right? Going back to it, and again, we need some participation for this. Like, what are the 2 or 3 things, the pillars on which that application was built? And by pillars, I mean, let's say, you are somebody who is a math nerd, or you are someone who's a big debater. That is one of the strongest. The pillars are basically the strongest things, 2 or 3 things that your
Remember.
application sits on,
Yeah.
right? And usually this will show up in your profile. So when we go back to our Alan Landon, what were the 2 or 3 things that really stood out as this candidate's strengths? I think we have to cold call now our counselor friends only for participation.
Ma'am, I think the mathematical thinking part and I would say community service and also the scholarship part, which was pretty exceptional because the acceptance itself was for like the top 3%. So maybe that and I mean she could have like better connected the dots in her profile. So
Mm.
yeah, that's what I would like to add from my part.
Okay.
Yeah, she was academically better than other aspects in her portfolio.
Okay, so are you saying that academic strength was one of the main pillars of the application, that she was academically strong, and that came through several times in the application? Is that what I'm hearing basically, Ramya?
Yeah, I think
Yes,
that's what.
yeah.
And then the ability to put math to politics, or that, and then the third thing somebody's mentioned was community engagement. Okay, anybody disagrees, thinks something else?
Maybe the eagerness to interact and get to experience new perspectives. I
Okay.
don't know how to summarize that into like 2 words, but
So did it show up or did it not show up?
it
What
showed up, I think, in
showed
their
up?
supplemental and their personal essay, and I think even in one of the LORs. I think they were all talking about how they like to hear opposing viewpoints. I
Right.
think they
Okay.
spoke about that through debate.
Okay. And then did that show up in the LOR? Because I did not read the LOR. Do you think it showed up in the LOR?
I'm sorry, I was being on mute. I think it was in one of the teachers' LOR. I don't remember
And this
which
is how
one, but I
you
think
you
one of the
help to
LORs.
connect the dots. So most of your schools have something known as brag sheets, right? And I know at least in my school, kids hate filling those brag sheets. They think it's too much extra work that they're being asked to do. But sometimes, if you know which are the 2 or 3 pillars you're building your application on, it's worth your time to bring those aspects up in your brag sheet so that the teacher's on the same page as you when they're writing the LOR, right? So you don't have to say that but you can say I'm highlighting this quality of mine, and with you in your class, I demonstrated it by this activity or in this way. And that can make the teacher's job really easy. Of course, it has to be the truth. But if it is, then it helps to kind of whatever you are trying to showcase in your application, it will come through also in the other people's perspectives. And that's how you can play a part, even in the aspect of your application over which you think you have no control. Right? So that would be also something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Ramya, I want to talk about the
So
other.
just remember, some people said academically strong, community service, but just remember a lot of students will, especially the serious applicants, right? Of course, there are always students who will apply to universities where they are not an academic fit, where their academic profile is below what the university needs, because anybody is free to go on Common App and apply. But even if you take the more serious applicants, they're all the most serious applicants all have that strong academics. So that is, yes, it's good, but it's not a differentiator. Second is, everybody will have some level of community service, everybody is going to present with some sort of, good interest in supercurriculars. So when you have all that, I think a lot of it comes to these softer parts of your application, right? In terms of the essays, the LORs, and to some extent the activities list as well, because the activities list is a mix of the objective and the subjective. Everything else is just objective. It's numbers, it's grades, it's awards, it's all that stuff. But so what we're trying to say is, let's say you have two students who are, equally strong profiles. They've maybe done a lot around, let's take computer science, and they have built some apps, taken some courses, done some research, maybe headed the coding club in school, right? Both strong applicants. But one student, let's say, writes an essay about how they, the things that they've done or their motivations around learning computer science or studying computer science are this one particular, let's say, they take some sort of social problem and that's what they want to work on. And yes, to some extent, it is supported a little bit by their activities, right? Whereas the other student is not able to show that as strongly. It is obviously a lot more compelling. The first student story is a lot more compelling, even though the profiles are very similar, right? So I don't know if that's making sense. It's basically about, you can have very strong everything. Your profile can be fantastic, but if you're not able to tell your story about why you want to do what you want to do, and what is your motivation, who you are as a person, then the entire thing is not going to be as effective. So when you look at it, you obviously won't have insight into, you won't be able to read your letters of recommendation that the teachers are writing, but you can point out, as Sapna ma'am said, you can point out in your brag sheet the 2 or 3 things that you really want the teacher to focus on, right? So that could be maybe the way you always, show up for your classmates, or maybe you are that kid who is always trying to ask the difficult questions, or, push people to be the best version of themselves. Like, you have to reflect a little bit as to who you are in the class, who you are in your community, right? And these things, the brag sheet is your way of doing that. So please take that seriously if your school allows you to give a brag sheet. Otherwise, go talk to the teacher and say, hey, these are the 2-3 things that I would like you to please focus on in my letters of recommendation. So it's important that you have some clarity about what you want to portray in your applications.
Yeah. Then, of course, about the essay. An essay is a whole new, separate, and a very long chapter. Both of us love the college essay guide resources. It's most of it is free to use. You can go to the website, you can sign up, has an excellent YouTube channel, gives out like a handbook, which is digital handbook that you can use. Some excellent resources there that will help you really um, not only write the essay, but really actually figure out what are the main parts of your personality that you need to highlight. If you walk through the steps that he's detailed, there's a lot that you can get done for the US application via the college essay guides resources. So that's a good one. There are others, but I think that one is a very comprehensive and a good one to use. And then, of course, using LLM as aids. And I think Ramya has an excellent example, so I'll let her take this.
Yeah. So a couple of things, so there have been a lot of Insta things on this as well, which I'm finding very fascinating. So, one is, and we did this with, I did this with a couple of students this year, where see, fundamentally the essay is about your values coming through. And so whatever the topic, whether you're writing about, making breakfast with your dad every morning, or like some family tradition, or whether you're writing about somebody who's an influence in your life, or a particular hobby that you're really passionate about, whatever the topic, right, or a challenge, the underlying thing they're looking for is the values, right, and who you are and who you will be in the context of when you come to the university. So for that, it's not always easy to figure out what our values are. One nice prompt is, you can go to ChatGPT or any of your LLM of your choice and say, give me a series of questions to basically give it a little bit of background about yourself, and then ask it to give you a series of questions to arrive at your top 3 values, right? And keep tweaking it till you feel like those values are reflective of you, and then see, what anecdotes fit in. So that is to brainstorm the values. Then once you write some of these essays, you can feed it into ChatGPT. One is, you should always ask it to act as an admissions officer, looking at international applications and blah, blah, give it a strong
You
prompt.
can also give it a college name. You can say act as an admission
Yes,
officer
especially
for
for the supplemental
X
essays.
university. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you give the prompt and then you put in your essay, but say, don't let it give you an essay, but obviously, but say, okay, take this essay and critique it like an expert admissions officer. And I found that it actually does a really good job of giving you good, valuable feedback and critique, right? So these are some ways. If you guys find other ways, please, DM on our WhatsApp group. We would love to. You guys are very savvy, more than us. So we
And
want to hear.
Ramya, one thing we need to say, please don't make ChatGPT write your essay. It's the
Oh,
worst
yeah.
idea ever.
Yeah.
Okay, because ChatGPT does not know what your life experiences are. It does
Yeah.
not know what you stand for. It doesn't know what you have done. Doesn't know what you feel, what you think. It knows what generic people think, feel, and have done. So it is not a good place for to write your essay, but it's a great place to critique your essay. So
Yes. And also,
ask for the critique, not for your
yeah.
essay, please.
I think even Grammarly and all, use it with caution, because when, some kids say, oh, my English is not that strong, they don't really care that much, honestly, about spelling mistakes and all that. Like they may sometimes, other consultants may say stuff like that, but at least the 2 times that I was a reader, we were asked not to judge
Yeah.
kids at all on spelling mistakes and things like that, because they understand that's not,
And that advice would be different for UK.
yeah,
But for
UK is the
US,
difference, sorry, yeah. But my point
US,
is, if you use Grammarly overly, it can change the voice and tone of your essay as well. So don't think, oh, it's just a grammar fixing tool. It actually gives very aggressive suggestions.
yeah,
Yeah, the official word I think we must add is that universities at this point are saying, look, it's okay to use LLMs as a brainstorming tool, as maybe a refining tool, but do not use it to write your essay. Do not copy paste, obviously, and things like that. There are detectors, so
Yeah.
not worth it. And it's boring stuff that comes out of it, right? So yeah, okay. We will not do the platform walkthroughs today because there's just no time, but a
God,
few
it's
things to keep in mind.
20
So,
minutes past that time, actually.
yeah.
6:20.
Do you just want to take this and then I think we'll just go to.
No, I think, are we doing the walkthroughs?
No, we're not. Sorry. We just wanted to add that, look, if your school uses a CRM platform,
Yeah.
so I think, so Sapna, I guess, correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong. So,
because so supposing you're using a CL4, you do not then ask for LOR on your Common App, okay? Because that will actually shut down your account. It gets locked for a couple of days. So please be in touch with your school counselor or your school team, whoever's in charge of the college application process. Find out if there is a CRM platform being used, and then what are the requirements around it. That's very, very important. Then don't forget the optional LORs, because some colleges allow you to add optional LORs, and those are in the Common App, right? And again, so usually your school counselor is a good person to talk about all of this. Um, And so basically, there's a counselor LOR, which is a must in the US process. There are academic or a teacher LORs, which can be 1, 2, or 3, depends. Every college takes a certain number and does not take more than that. And then some colleges allow you to add an optional LOR, which can be outside the school also. So if you've interned with somebody, if you've done research work with somebody, something like that can be added. And for that, you speak to your school counselor and then add that name in the Common App. And there's a process for that, so you need to figure that out. There's a FERPA, which basically is that you give up your right to read the LORs and to know what's written in the LORs. If you don't sign the FERPA, anyway, the application doesn't go through. So you have to sign the FERPA. And then the courses and grades. What did we have in mind for this?
Oh, so there is a section called courses and grades. Not all your universities will need it, but for those who need it, you have to basically enter all your courses and grades from 9th grade onwards. So ask your school for the transcript, but very few universities need you to put that in.
But if it's there, you have to give the exact numbers. So use the mark sheet. Don't go by your memory in that
Yes.
case. Yeah.
Everything has to match, like really everything. The way, if it's a semester, and don't hide anything, because sometimes schools will give your first term, second term final grades, and then if you only put in the final grades, eventually if you enroll at the university, they will make it an issue. We've actually had that issue a couple
So,
of times.
so check with your school whether they submit only the final grades, they submit the half release, do they submit it semester wise. Please find all that out and work accordingly.
What does a CRM mean?
CRM is usually well, I don't know what the full form is, but basically it's the platforms. So there are some college application platforms that we use in schools, like CAlpha is a big one. My school uses CAlpha, which is a platform through which you make the application.
Yeah.
There's Bridge.
If you don't, if your
You
school
don't have it,
doesn't have
that's
it, that's
okay.
totally fine. You just
Then
go to
you use the
Common App.
Common App. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's easy.
It's just in case the school has it, then it adds a little bit of a complexity. So you need to go talk to whoever's handling that. So CRM is customer relationship management. It's just like a
Okay.
platform to manage this whole process. For us as counselors, it helps us manage all the stuff that students do for college and career counseling and applications. So
Yeah.
that's what
Okay.
it is. But if you haven't heard of it at this point and you're already in
Worry
12th,
about
chances
it.
are your school doesn't use it. So
Yeah, don't worry
you're
about
fine. Just go to Common App, do your applications there. Super straightforward, wonderful platform. Love it. I mean, really love it. Okay. So once you do your applications, you think, wow, it's done. And for those of you, we put in a couple of like these US sort of things here, but this is a cultural thing from like the 90s and 2000s where there used to be these things called infomercials on TV where they try to sell you like so like Santoku knives and like OxyClean and all this stuff. This guy, Billy Mays, was like a huge informational personality. And he would always have this thing where he would sell you this like, all these features. And then he'd say, but wait, there's more. And then he would give you another like 10 features. So there is always more, right? Once you fill in your application, some things to watch out for. Like Sapna ma'am said, interviews. Actually, interviews, you can look now on the website and make sure that you sign up because the slots get filled, right? And while it's not a mandatory part of your application, it is one more data point. It's a chance to impress. So, do it. And then log into usually universities, the way the process works after you submit the application on Common App is the universities will typically give you another portal, and more so this is for, public universities for sure. But they'll give you a login ID password for credentials for their own portal. Once you go in there, there's usually a checklist that they show of what has been, submitted and what is not. So in case you see things like, okay, the school transcript is not uploaded or this letter of recommendation is not uploaded, just go back and, talk to whoever's in charge in your school for those things. There may be things on your side that you may have to still upload, like test scores or, additional things. And sometimes these days, the big pain is the SRAR. It's the self-reported academic record. A lot of universities ask you to once again fill in, even though your school sends the transcripts, they ask you to fill this into their portal. And the application will not be reviewed till all the checklist items are complete. So I think the bottom line here is just make sure, and this is something wonderfully outsourced to your parents. If you're busy, please ask one of your parents every day or every like 2-3 days to please log in and check the portal to make sure that all the requirements are actually complete, right? And then at some point, usually towards the end of Jan, the mid-year report is due. This is something not for early applicants, but for regular decision applicants. So the school will have to send an update, of the exams you've taken and the results and maybe the predicted grades, which we didn't get to cover much of today. But all of that gets sent in the mid-year report. So, and if you're a Cambridge student, you may have taken some retakes in November, and those results will go in typically with the mid-year report. Sapna, you want to quickly
Yeah.
do this?
Once the decisions begin to come in, you can get, these are the 4 kinds of decisions that you can get. When you apply in the early rounds, you can get a deferment. It's becoming more and more common actually now to get a deferment. A deferment does not mean it's a rejection. It does not mean that you're on a wait list. It means that they're going to consider you again. So they're going to read your application once again with the regular decision people, right? So that's what deferment means. Admitted, of course, you know what that means. Rejected is very clear. Waitlisted is that they've put you on a wait list, and if some of the admitted students do not accept, then they will go into the wait list. Now we don't know how deep in the wait list you are. But so those are the 4 kind of decisions that you get. If you are on the wait list, most universities, when they put you on the wait list, will let you know whether they want you to write what is called a letter of continued interest, or LOKI in short when we call it. If they want you to write a letter of continued interest, please do write it, especially if you want to be considered. If you already have another admission that you're very happy with, you may let yourself out of the wait list. But if you're not and you would like to be continue to be considered, then you have to write the letter of continued interest. In the letter of continued interest, some universities have a set format. They'll just send it to you. It's like a form, you fill it. For other universities, you write like a free-flowing mail, and in which you would like to say why you're a good fit for the university. If you've done anything new after you submitted your application. So say you submitted your application in December and you're writing the letter of continued interest in April, and you've had a chance to do anything more. Sometimes the school has given out some prizes, something has happened. So you will include those things in a letter of continued interest so that, it shows up as some more stuff that you're doing. So that would be the waitlist piece. And then what happens if you don't meet your predicted grades? So that's a good one. In that, so by and large, US universities are not finicky about 1 or 2% here or there. Okay, so supposing your predicted was 95% and you've got a 92%, that's by and large all right. You don't have much to worry about. But if the drop is a huge drop, and some universities will say a huge drop as if you've changed an entire grade. So supposing you were to get an A grade, which for most schools would mean say 90% plus, and now you are at a C grade, which is like a 75, 78, something like that, whatever. So if that's the kind of drop, then definitely, again, I would say you need to speak to your school counselor if you have one, or reach out to the university rep and talk with them. Okay. Mostly US universities are good about gaps as long as they're reasonable gaps. Ramey, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's really it. And sometimes they'll send you an email also saying that we need to reevaluate your application.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that
don't freak out,
happens.
just it's okay.
Yeah. And it's good to be honest and let them know why. And if you're taking a retest, sometimes you're sending your paper for evaluation, you can let them know that. So all of those pieces help.
Yeah.
But predicted grades for UK work very differently. When we do our UK session, we'll talk about that.
So I'm sorry, this was a very long session, but hopefully you guys got something out of it. So any questions, I know we didn't get too much into some of the platforms and nitty-gritties, but we're also happy to
Also,
Yeah.
sometimes this stuff is available online. So,
Yeah.
there are great videos on how to fill the Common App and stuff that you do have access to.
Any
If
questions
you have
for
any
us?
questions, you can definitely put it on the WhatsApp group and we'll try and answer them immediately.